What if I told you that with just a few carefully crafted questions, you could make someone think about you for hours after your conversation ends? Today, we're diving into the psychological warfare tactics of Machiavelli and how his principles can be applied to modern dating and relationships. But before we begin, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we're about to reveal some seriously powerful conversation techniques. The Machiavellian Mind Game. Machiavelli wrote The Prince in 1513, but his insights into human psychology remain devastatingly effective today. He understood that the most powerful influence doesn't come from what you say directly. It comes from what you make the other person think and feel. When you ask the right questions, you're not just gathering information. You're planting seeds in her mind that will grow long after you've left. These questions work because they tap into fundamental human psychology. They create curiosity gaps, emotional investment, and psychological intrigue. Question 1. What's something you've never told anyone? This question is psychological dynamite. When you ask this, you're doing several things simultaneously. First, you're creating instant intimacy by inviting vulnerability. Second, you're positioning yourself as someone trustworthy enough to hear secrets. Third, and most importantly, you're making her think about her deepest thoughts and experiences. Here's why this works so well. Most people go through life having surface-level conversations about weather, work, and weekend plans. When someone asks about their hidden experiences, it forces them to dig deeper into their own psyche. She'll start mentally cataloging her secrets, deciding what she's comfortable sharing. This internal process creates a psychological loop that continues long after your conversation. But timing is everything with this question. Don't drop it in the first 5 minutes of meeting someone. Wait until there's already some rapport and the conversation has moved beyond small talk. The key is to ask it genuinely, not like you're conducting an interrogation. Question 2. If you could relive one day of your life, which would it be? This question is a masterpiece of psychological manipulation in the best possible way. It forces her to mentally time travel through her most meaningful experiences. She'll think about first loves, family moments, achievements, adventures, and life-changing events. But here's the brilliant part. While she's searching through these memories, she's also unconsciously associating you with these positive feelings. You become linked to her happiest moments simply by being the person who asked her to recall them. This question also reveals her values and priorities without her realizing it. If she chooses a family moment, you know family is important. If she picks an adventure, you know she values experiences over material things. The beauty is that there's no wrong answer, and every answer gives you deeper insight into who she is. When she answers, don't just nod and move on. Ask follow-up questions about why that day was special and what made it so memorable. This keeps her in that positive emotional state longer and strengthens the association between you and those good feelings. Question 3. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? This question is pure psychological gold because it bypasses all of her limiting beliefs and fears. Everyone has dreams they've pushed aside because they seem impossible or impractical. When you ask this question, you're giving her permission to dream without constraints. She'll start thinking about her biggest aspirations, the things she's always wanted to do but never dared to try. This creates what psychologists call a peak state, a moment of elevated emotion and possibility. But here's where the Machiavellian genius comes in. By asking this question, you become associated with her biggest dreams and aspirations. You're not just another guy asking about her job or hobbies. You're the person who made her think about her unlimited potential. This question also does something else incredibly powerful. It reveals her true passions and desires. Most people spend their days focused on obligations and responsibilities. This question cuts through all of that to reveal what really matters to her. When she shares her answer, you'll see her face light up in a way that probably doesn't happen very often. That emotional high will be connected to you in her memory. Question 4. What's the most spontaneous thing you've ever done? This question taps into adventure and excitement, to emotions that create strong psychological bonds. When she thinks about her most spontaneous moment, she's reliving the rush of breaking her own rules and doing something unexpected. These are usually some of our most vivid and emotionally charged memories. By asking her to share this story, you're creating a mini adventure right there in the conversation. She gets to relive the excitement while sharing it with you. This question also gives you insight into her comfort with risk and spontaneity. Some people will share stories of last-minute trips to Paris, while others might talk about trying a new restaurant without a reservation. Both answers are valuable because they show you how she approaches uncertainty and new experiences. The key is to respond with genuine interest and maybe even share a spontaneous story of your own. This creates a shared sense of adventure and rebellion against the mundane. Question 5. If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be? This classic question remains powerful because it reveals so much about someone's interests, values, and intellectual curiosity. But more importantly for our purposes, it makes her think about fascinating people and stimulating conversations. While she's considering historical figures, celebrities, or family members she's lost, her mind is actively engaged in complex thought. She's not just answering a question. She's imagining scenarios, conversations, and experiences. This mental activity creates what neuroscientists call elaborative encoding. When information becomes more memorable because it's connected to rich mental imagery and emotion. You become part of this elaborate mental process. When she thinks about that dream dinner party later, she remembers that you were the one who sparked that fascinating mental journey. The follow-up questions are crucial here. Ask why she chose that person, what she'd want to discuss, and what she thinks she'd learn. These deeper questions keep her mind actively engaged and strengthen the memory of your conversation. Question 6. What's something you believed as a child that you miss believing? This question is emotionally devastating in the best possible way. It makes her think about innocence, wonder, and the magic of seeing the world through young eyes. Everyone has childhood beliefs that made the world seem more magical, mysterious, or meaningful. Maybe she believed in fairy tales, thought adults had all the answers, or imagined she could become anything she wanted. When you ask this question, you're taking her back to a time when the world seemed full of infinite possibility. This creates a bittersweet, emotional state that's incredibly powerful for memory formation. She associates you with this moment of nostalgic reflection about lost innocence and wonder. But here's the really clever part. After she shares her answer, you can position yourself as someone who helps her rediscover that sense of wonder and possibility. You become the person who reminded her of what it felt like to dream without limits. Question 7. What would your younger self be most surprised to learn about your life now? This question forces her to evaluate her life from a completely different perspective. She thinks about her teenage dreams, expectations, and assumptions about adulthood. This mental exercise is incredibly engaging because it requires her to jump between different time periods and viewpoints. Some people will realize they've exceeded their younger self's expectations, while others might feel they've fallen short of their dreams. Either way, this question creates deep self-reflection and emotional processing. The beauty is that while she's having this internal dialogue about her life journey, you're right there facilitating it. You become associated with this moment of profound self-awareness and introspection. This question also opens up natural follow-up conversations about growth, change, and life direction. You can explore how her priorities have shifted, what she's learned about herself, and where she sees herself going next. Let me explain the deeper psychological mechanisms that make these questions so effective. First, they create what psychologists call self-disclosure reciprocity. When someone shares something personal, they feel more connected to the person they shared it with. Second, these questions require cognitive elaboration. Her brain has to work harder to answer them, which makes the conversation more memorable. Third, they tap into peak emotional states. Questions about dreams, memories, and possibilities create positive feelings that become associated with you. Fourth, they demonstrate emotional intelligence. By asking thoughtful questions, you show that you're interested in her inner world, not just surface-level information. Finally, they create psychological investment. The more someone shares about themselves, the more invested they become in the interaction. Timing is absolutely crucial when using these questions. Don't fire them off like you're conducting a survey. Space them out across multiple conversations. Use them when the conversation naturally slows down, or when you want to deepen the connection. Pay attention to her responses and ask genuine follow-up questions. The power isn't just in the original question, but in how you respond to her answers. Show genuine curiosity about her experiences and thoughts. Remember, the goal isn't to manipulate or deceive. It's to create genuine connection and meaningful conversation. These questions work because they help you understand each other on a deeper level. Once you've mastered these basic questions, you can start using more advanced techniques. Try assumption questions like you seem like someone who values adventure over security. Am I right? This makes her think about her own values while creating an opportunity for her to correct or confirm your impression. Use hypothetical scenarios to explore her decision-making process and values. If you inherited $1 million tomorrow, what's the first thing you'd do? These questions reveal priorities and character without feeling like an interview. Here's what happens in her mind after your conversation ends. She'll find herself thinking about the stories she shared and the questions you asked. Those memories will be vividly encoded because of the emotional content and cognitive effort involved. She'll start to associate you with deep thinking, emotional connection, and meaningful conversation. This is completely different from typical dating interactions focused on logistics and surface-level compatibility. While other guys are asking about her job and hobbies, you've explored her dreams, fears, and inner world. That contrast makes you stand out in her memory. Don't use these questions like a checklist or script. The power comes from genuine curiosity and authentic interest in her answers. Don't ask these questions too early in the interaction before you've built some basic rapport. Don't rush through her answers to get to the next question. The magic happens in the follow-up questions and deeper exploration of her responses. Most importantly, don't use these techniques manipulatively. The goal is genuine connection, not psychological trickery. Machiavelli understood that influence comes not from force, but from understanding human psychology. These questions work because they tap into fundamental human needs for connection, understanding, and self-expression. When you ask someone to share their dreams, memories, and inner thoughts, you're giving them a rare gift: your genuine attention and curiosity. That gift creates a psychological bond that extends far beyond your initial conversation. She'll think about you because you made her think about herself in new and meaningful ways. You became the catalyst for self-reflection, emotional connection, and deeper understanding. That's a powerful position to occupy in someone's mind. Remember to use these techniques ethically and authentically. The goal is to create genuine human connection, not to manipulate or deceive. When used properly, these questions don't just make her think about you. They help both of you understand each other on a deeper level. And that's the foundation of any meaningful relationship. If you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe for more psychology-based dating advice. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest content. And let me know in the comments which of these questions you're most excited to try. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.